Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Egan. I am the past president and of the New England Academy chapter, National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences are the folks that bestow Emmy Awards. So I'm the past president of that New England chapter. I'm in the national marketing chair. And part of our goal of the Academy is to figure out how to help promote great content. So when I was connected with Phil Gilpin to talk about how to help promote this festival, I even offered to put together a panel. So that's a little bit about how this originated. Part of what I see as a value to the industry is the growth of online content, especially changing since about 2006, 2007, the National Academy decided to recognize online content as Emmy worthy. Before that, there was sort of a disparate, there were Web Awards, there were still sort of the Cable Ace Awards. Now the Academy recognizes content in sort of three different areas, but as on equal ground. So when that occurred, New England, which is obviously tied in very well with the information technology world and the web design companies and technology companies out of Kendall Square, we became a little bit more proactive and began to recruit companies to enter the competition. They were a little hesitant at first, thinking, how do I produce a 4-minute video, and how does that stand up against a 30-minute documentary that, WGBH that wins, 25 Emmy Awards and Peabody Awards a year? How is my competition going to stand up? But what we began to realize is the reason why Emmy recognition of the news business is a variety of sort of consumer-facing content, which means it's only about the real time and made by real people, journalists, cameramen, editors, and the same types of professionals are you folks. So whether you're doing it for an ad agency's website, or you're doing it for a nonprofit, or you're doing it for a newspaper, and as the newspapers and radio stations web platforms grew between 2006, 2010, there was more and more and more content. And then what changed sort of in a big way was that, this boom of the internet, of people beginning to feel, wait a second, part of this content is stuff that as a production company I can make profitable. From a distributor, I can tie advertising to, whether it's a sponsored message at the end, or it's a pre-roll video for other programming, or there's banner ads around the website. So we began to realize that that was a revenue stream. And just this past year, in 8 short years, the Academy had more non-broadcast entries in 50% of its categories than broadcast entries. So we were seeing, our public affairs, public service announcement, sports programming, the different categories, and a good 50, 60% of the entries were for websites or online portals as opposed to broadcast outlets. So part of the big picture is that online, from the Academy's point of view, is sort of setting a trend of creating revenue, and I'll say that in a kind of a big way. One, obviously, I see it firsthand because people enter, so we're seeing more entries and entry fees and members, but what it means is, for all of us, is that production companies are getting hired to produce multiples of online content for the Boston Globe or newspaper or Greater Media and their radio stations, or Mass General Hospital and their internal websites. And then within there's more of a production process happening. So there's more cameramen, editors, sound folks, producers, writers, being able to sort of either, I'll say, work out of their house. If they have a good digital camera and a laptop, they're now in business. And there are a lot of freelancers who are able to sort of, work on programming and then be able to produce online short stuff because you can do it in a short amount of time, and that sort of creates a growth of the business. So when I was talking with Phil about, ideas, he said that's an area that might make sense to talk about. So it's a little bit of a higher wire act for us because, or for me, I won't speak for them yet, because this is a new area for us to discuss. If you want me to talk a lot about television programming, I can do that till you all pass out. But the online growth is new, and that's why I asked Allan Guilbeault and Steve Porter to join us. Our third panelist, Kevin Deane from New Hampshire 1, has the flu, and I found that out late last night, and he called me again today and said, I can't make it. But what I wanted to do by having folks from the marketing and the entertainment side and the news side is to talk about the different areas where content is being made and where revenue is being created and how. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. And I would very much like it to be less of me and us talking, and when we get to it, we're very open to questions and dialogue. All I ask is that you tell us who you are and where you're from before you ask your question, and as much as statements are nice, questions are better. So that's a little bit of sort of housekeeping process. So let me get started by introducing my two esteemed panelists. So Allan Guilbeault is from Total Scope Marketing. I've had the pleasure to work with Allan and his business partner, Mark LeClaire. He's the co-founder of Total Scope Marketing. They are a sort of and he'll tell you more, a traditional marketing advertising agency, but Allan focuses on the design, development, and execution of marketing campaigns. He's the creative behind all of their campaigns as well. He works with a variety of large-scale entertainment and tourism clients like White Mountains Attractions, Alpine Adventures, Whales Tales Water Park, and Allan's also sort of a fan of photography, graphic design, so he brings those attributes into his point of view. Most importantly, and I've seen it firsthand, he's a beer lover. If you've been to Littleton, New Hampshire, there's a new shop there called Shillings. It's a brewery and pizza. So I know you have enjoyed that. We've enjoyed it together. All in good fun here. That's Allan Guilbeault. Then let me introduce Steve, and then I'll ask them each to give a little more to their introduction. Steve Porter, for the longest time, probably a DJ that you listened to if you went to a nightclub in a variety of cities, and was able to take his musical stylings and attributes of mixing and turn it into what I think is one of the most successful businesses I've seen in New England in the last 15 years in sort of the video post-production world. Steve creates mashups. So if you've seen online segments on SportsCenter or a variety of outlets, like for the NFL, IBM. So somewhere between a DJ mixing live sound bites or taped sound bites of athletes, and when you hear it, it sounds like a funky rap tune, but it's this quarterback and that coach, and he's going to play some of it, and I dig it. He's been doing it for a while. I think, started in 2009. He was ranked number 2 in DJ Times, America's Best DJ, and started with a remix called Slap Chop, and that's sort of how he founded his shop. In 2010, he did some content for the NBA playoffs and their NBA Finals marketing campaign. In 2011, he started doing work. He was Ad Asia's viral video top 10 for a Wheaties fuel ad, and now he gets to hang out with Jeremy Lin and Tim Tebow and does Super Bowl kind of funky videos. And I'm being somewhat sarcastic, but it's, as we talked about before, the three of us, when you're having fun doing what you're doing, your work is good. So, that's sort of, I can tell he has fun doing that. So that's a little bit about my two esteemed colleagues here. Allan, what we're going to do in terms of format is Allan will tell you a little bit more about himself and his shop and show you some work and maybe talk about it while it's playing. Then Steve will do the same, and then I may throw a couple questions about that and then open it up to the floor. So, Allan Guilbeault.
Thank you very much, Tim. Happy to be here. You guys, beautiful over here. I am from New Hampshire, as Tim said, but what a great drive over here, and you guys have perfect weather. So, as he said, my name's Allan Guilbeault. I'm partner for LeClaire Guilbeault and Associates and Total Scope Marketing. We're a small marketing agency, as he said, pretty much full service agency, creating content, but also media buying for companies, handling all of their marketing. And so when Tim asked me to be on the panel, I was kind of like, I was familiar with the festival and said, I'm a marketing guy. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about there. He said, well, it's really a panel about generating revenue from content. And that obviously, as everybody here clearly knows, that's changing daily almost with the digital landscape out there. So I said, all right, well, that makes sense to me. We buy content, we create some content for our clients. We create ads and 30-second commercials and digital content and things like that. I said, so that makes sense. So I started thinking a little bit about, well, what exactly is digital content? And for me, from a marketing side, obviously, the film and industry has largely been a very ad revenue-driven industry over the years. Obviously, there's companies out there that pretty much fund TV and most productions by trying to get their product or service out in front of people that are watching content out there, whether it was a TV show or sponsorship of a film or product placement or various number of ways. But obviously, at some point in that process, an advertiser or a company is analyzing the return on investment for the money that they spent to either place an ad or generate content or their website or whatever it is. So that really, as I said, got me thinking about what exactly is digital content now, is particularly from the advertiser's point of view, or the person who's funding that content, whatever that may be. And again, that is changing dramatically with the internet now. Because if you don't have the money, you're not going to be able to produce anything. If you're not producing content that is worthy of advertisers placing ads or sponsoring it or something, you're not going to be asked to produce that content again. If you're not creating a 30-second ad or digital content that goes on their website that the brand feels doesn't represent their brand, they're not going to have you do it again. So I said, okay, well, that makes a little bit of sense from a marketing standpoint. So I threw together some clips of videos, and as I said, it's really, I look at it from an advertising perspective, from dollars and return on investment of dollars, but obviously the other side of the film and TV industry is also ticket sales. And since this was and again, that's changing as well with digital, right? Ticket sales is not so much buying a ticket to go to see a film anymore, but it could be digital downloads or some sort of distribution model. So I put together a quick little film, and is it all right if I stand up, actually? Because I need to see what's happening here. Am I totally messing everything up? So I just took some clips together. Some of these we helped produce. Others are people that we have worked with, so it's all right. I've thrown a wrench into their whole plan. But I really started to, as I said, question what is digital content and what revenue can be generated from that. And you can go ahead and play that if possible. I'll talk a little bit about this. Since this is a film festival, I wanted to start out kind of from the revenue model of actually making money from producing content in a film that's a labor of love and passion. I'm assuming there's filmmakers here or documentarians. This is a production company called Specialty Field Productions that we just worked with for a combination Ford digital advertisement and one of the clients of ours. But this is a full feature-length documentary. Has anybody seen this movie? It's called Easier Said Than Done. Anyone familiar with this? It's about rally racing. It was released last year, and this was actually a profitable venture for these guys. Started out as a Kickstarter campaign, actually, and they made money. And the reason they made money was because they kept 90% of the revenue generated from this, because they distributed themselves through Vimeo on demand and digital downloads. this is obviously a very,
everything invested.
not a
It's
very,
like
but
the
a
biggest moment
pretty
to
small
shine,
niche community that they're
and
reaching
roll
out
off
to.
the
So to go through some sort of distributor didn't really make sense. They could reach all the people that wanted to see this video probably through the social channels and through other channels. So they produced this beautiful, as you can see. I wanted to start out with kind of some nice filmmaking here, because I'm assuming there's people that appreciates nice filmmaking, because later on in this clip, it's only a few minutes long, but later on some of these videos are going to be very poor examples of filmmaking, so to speak. So I wanted to start out with something that at least looked nice. So these guys, as I said, did make money off this, as far as covered all their production costs, all their travel costs. The film was rated really well within the community, the people that are interested in this. But in talking to the filmmaker, if he had charged his daily rate for this, he would have not made money. So it covered money from a production standpoint, allowed him to make the film he wanted. But how they make money, since we're talking about content, is he has carved out a niche for himself within the motorsports industry, and Ford, in this case, and other motorsports brands hire him literally to go all over the country and film things like this, this is Ken Block, and they do behind the scenes footage of racing schools and other teams that are associated with, in this case, Ford. So this is really how they make their money, and again, a revenue stream that someone is, a company like, in this case, Ford and other companies are paying him to do this. So this is sort of the second revenue stream. You know, he's carved out a really good niche for what he does. He's known for doing a really, really good job in the motorsports industry, and because of that, he flies all over the world. Literally, they'll pay him and a couple cameramen, production assistants to fly all over the world and produce these things for Ford and other sponsors as well. So that's really how he makes his living. So when we're talking about generating content, obviously it'd be nice if people, Ford or someone, can fly you all over the world to produce videos for them, but many filmmakers and content producers are not that lucky. So this is kind of the second revenue stream, you know, staying close to home. Like, this is a local video production, whereas the Ford piece, even though it's 2 to 3 minutes, same time frame, was tens of thousands of dollars to produce. This is a destination here in New Hampshire that, you know, a local video production company did this for, I think, a couple $1,000s or something like this. So just what my point is with this is just kind of pointing out those different revenue streams and how varied they have become. Those are very similar, but on different scales.
I don't know exactly.
This is, does anyone know this guy? Anthony Carino. If anybody watches HGTV, he's a HGTV star, has a show on HGTV. These guys came over to a client of ours in New York. The New York Zipline is the client, and this is a web series that is produced. It airs on this website here, and that's basically to support the broadcast series out there. So another revenue stream. This here I was showing because this brings up sort of the technological side of revenue stream. This is, again, very much documentary filmmaking.
To create a
documentary filmmaking style, but this is all on the web. If you guys can hear the audio here, they're just about to. There it is. It's Microsoft. This whole piece was shot on a Lumia smartphone. This whole entire thing, and so it really just kind of points out how things have changed in the video production industry, obviously, and I'm sure everybody is aware of this. This is a single guy with a phone that put this together, and when we talk about revenue streams again, he was paid by Microsoft to do this. So finding that niche of what you're good at, and finding the people that are willing to pay for you to do it. In this case, some large companies are spending money for people that are producing spots that are made entirely on a smartphone. And speaking of that technological side of things, does everybody know what Vines are? Yes, most people know what Vines are. Well, of all the videos here, and I'll let these play through, the video's just about done.
Show me your hit.
Vines are little 6-second clips, if anybody has ever seen these. But and after that, we all clearly need a beer. But It's funny that you said beer lover. That I happen to have this clip in. But those vines, of all those videos that were there and all that content that was produced, those vines have the most engagement by far. And they're 6-second clips produced on an iPhone from some kid. There was 2 different kids in those 3 different clips. And Coke and Doritos, each on Vine, have less than 30,000 followers, I think, 40,000 followers, something like that on Vine. The kid that did the 2 basically product placement Vines has 2.3 million followers. So Coke is paying him. Both of these kids make 6-figure incomes by essentially throwing in like a Coke or a Doritos into their Vines. The other kid that did the spot for, I think it was Aquafina, has 9.5 million followers. So the whole point of this is revenue generation, and what companies are paying for has changed. It used to be a production company went out, created you a great piece of content, whether that was a commercial or even a video for your website. But those production companies now are competing with kids with iPhones, and sometimes the kids with the iPhones are winning. So, and then at the end there was just a quick beer clip and another form of digital content. Those are just a number of clips that we created for a website for a client of ours, that you click on the different kind of beer and out shows a video and lays layers over the top of the video with telling about the beer. So that was kind of just discussing the what is digital content now and what are people willing to pay for it. So
right, and what I want to be able to do is sort of you'll see sort of, I'll say, almost 2 different styles of what content is. Understanding sort of that client-based, developed content from some type of communication or marketing strategy, scripted, shot, edited, and that's what Allan and Telescope does a lot of. Then, what is not the norm, but is become the norm, is what Steve does.
This is in contrast to the vines that were there, what Steve does.
Steve's got
really cool stuff.
Long vines. So
yeah, very. Thanks for everybody for coming out today, for hearing us out. My name is Steve Porter. As Tim mentioned, I had a very unique entry into digital content creation. It actually was a global touring DJ for about 10 years, and then around 2009, I started getting interested in making videos, slowly uploading stuff to YouTube, like sandbox style, not a care in the world. And then eventually I put up a remix of the Slap Chop commercial by ShamWow Guy. And it went viral. It went crazy. And all of a sudden Fox News is having me down to have an interview about how viral my video is on YouTube, and it totally changed my life because I was so used to the music industry and how slowly things would evolve. You'd have to get your records into distributors, and it would take forever to get your stuff into actually a store. And so this is the first time I ever had a viral moment. It was wild. It was crazy. Basically, it was a crash course into digital content creation. People wanted more of it. I started making more of it. I made a sports one called Press Hop, and that one got picked up by ESPN to play all over their network. And then the NBA called me to produce their whole commercial campaign for 2010, which was all over TV during that year. So it really kind of took off. I had to kind of just strap on my boots and get used to it really quick. So I was basically thrust into a situation where I was making content for television with under a year of experience of making videos by merely meshing my techniques as a music producer and DJ, making club tracks for clubs, but meshing that with marketing and just working with clients for the first time, really, because before then I'm just making techno tracks for clubs. So so it was just sort of a splash of cold water for me. But I was able to, and I've been privy to the last 5 years, have so much access to different styles of where the content could go, and I think that's been the beauty of it. I've been able to go to college on, the various uses of where digital content can be, whether it's online or on TV or used as a commercial, whether it's a 30-second spot or used as a YouTube commercial to, just gain more traction for an ad. Those annoying YouTube commercials that come on before you watch a video. A lot of my spots have been used as those because they're, I guess, a little bit more engaging because it's just, has an organic musicality to it. So essentially, I basically make remix mashup marketing type songs out of people's content. You can put it however you want, but I would call it remix mashup marketing, and that's what Porterhouse Media is. We've been doing it for 5 years, unbelievably. We don't really know where all of our customers come from. It's kind of like people just kind of keep ringing our doorbell, and so it's been a really it's been an amazing, eye-opening experience to be able to see all the different purposing for digital media, whether it's online or TV or the various lengths that it's being used for, the uses, whether it's just a spot for SportsCenter that's purely for viewer engagement, or if it's a commercial for Shark Tank, which is purely to advertise the show. So it's been a wild ride for myself. I guess that pretty much explains what I do. I'd rather roll the tape. I made a little sizzle that kind of has some of my work on it, and you guys can kind of check out some of the stuff that I was doing.
This guy, he's a brilliant guy. He does these mashups.
Everybody, one clap.
Porterhouse Media. DJ Steve Porter.
He's a legend.
Whoever winner is DJ Steve Porter.
Very cool. Very
First video music remix.
business.
Porterhouse Media.
Making YouTube videos is not a hobby anymore.
I wanted to bring more. Find room on the staff for this guy.
Can you feel the heat? The heat street.
It's about damn time.
Making history.
I need to go faster.
Pull your 84 jerseys out. I'm back home. Pull your 84 jerseys out. This is gonna be a fun ride.
Unleash.
Tell Guilbeault, let him go.
It's time.
Turn him loose.
Let it play. Let it
Okay, on Sunday.
Johnny plays.
And Johnny's
Very good. Johnny Football. Or Johnny Hollywood.
Red carpet is all set. The fans are ready to go. Let's get it started.
I think I'll go
To the red carpet.
for having fun.
On the red carpet.
It's a very fun show.
I think so. I think I'll go just the same.
Hello.
Get it. Everybody dance.
On the dance floor.
Everybody dance.
On the dance floor.
I'm not a
It's not important anymore.
Press in the house. Press in the house. Press right here on GMA. So happy to be on GMA.
You want bread? No soup for you.
So obsessed with rap.
No soup for you.
I can hold out longer than you. Very good.
No soup for you.
Check this out. Yeah.
Here's the deal.
What it takes. Are you ready? Come to play. Are you ready for the take? You be money. Do the thing.
Here's my hand.
Living under the sea.
I love SpongeBob. Split picks.
Leave it to me.
Very serious about cereal. Very serious about clusters. You getting this? Very serious about cereal.
Just play the game, so make the rules. And I'm doing it my way, from the room to my doom.
I'm new wave, but I'm old school. I got a personal trainer, a personal shopper, a personal assistant, personal agenda.
We in here talking about practice. We sitting here. I supposed to be franchise player. We in here talking about
Live process. Science mixed with slap chop. You're gonna be the great mood all day. You're gonna be slapping your troubles away with a slap, slapping your troubles away with a slap chop.
This guy, he does these mashups.
It's probably the best way to explain it. So yeah, it's been a variety of uses for that stuff, and so it's been in the last 5 years, it's been totally eye-opening. Been privy to a lot of different uses, and be able to work with so many different people in television and in ad agencies and online marketing and online media, people who are well respected. So it's been a pleasure for sure.
Thank you. Some of that stuff out there, the video content that's out there, begs for stuff to happen with it. And I was glad to see that you had the Allen Iverson practice, because you those are moments that when you work in the media, you experience and you say, this is something that never happens. And for someone him to go off, then for you to be able to capture it and turn it into something is actually where the creative talent is to be able to sort of look at those kind of things. It's funny. It's just I wasn't surprised. But now, Steve runs, how many people in your company?
Well, we probably like eight full-time employees, and then we have a lot of interns from the Western Mass College area and high school area that we're utilizing. We actually have a couple new kids from who just recently graduated from Berklee School of Music, who are coming out to work with us. So this is all new. This is like in the first couple years, this wasn't available.
Right.
So
and my point is, there is now an 8-person plus company and growing in Western Mass making this kind of content. 6 years ago, nothing like this was being made. So now the amount of content getting uploaded to YouTube, to Vimeo, I think I read the other day that actually Facebook is the #1 provider of social media video, more than taken over past YouTube. But with people posting and creating content, now there's a business world and different genres and different styles and different efforts come out of that. Whether it's, the core traditional content that Allan makes and My Shop, Moody Pictures makes, and the stuff that the Academy recognizes, which is more in the news world, or stuff that's really avant-garde, but sort of feeling the marketplace and filling a void, is the stuff that Steve makes. And that's what I think is fascinating about where the business is going, is that, there's an opportunity to kind of jump into a pool of content and be able to look at it and say, how can you create that? So I have a couple questions for them, but I want to sort of preface it with one of the things that I've realized and that I've seen change the business in shooting digitally. We're now putting everything to either a drive or a tower server, and you're able to maximize all that content for a client. You used to get a box of tapes and you'd put it on a shelf, and the client would say, what can I do with my material? And you'd say, oh, well, let's think about it and look at notes. Now, with everything on a server, you can easily access it. You can have interns scan it or catalog it or log it, and you can immediately begin to get access to that material and repurpose it. And now there's a whole secondary business, not of just saying to a client, what can I produce for you, but what can we repurpose once we've produced the primary project? What can we do 6 months or a year later? So you're now building a client relationship that grows, and you're repurposing the same content that you shot for them. You're just being more inventive in different ways to do it. So I sort of set that up with, Allan, talk a little bit about when you work with, whether it's tourism clients who have existing content, have you begun to explore how to repurpose it and how to reuse it to help them with their marketing and help them get more of a return on investment of their initial production investment in working with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. It's for us, almost every first point of contact from a client comes from, can you build us a new website? That's almost #1 for us. And of course, content for that website is key. So whether it's photography or video, we always say, what do you have? Usually they all want to spend their money on a website. They'll say, we'll give you $10,000 for a website and have no money to put into content for that website. And we'll often say, you need to have great content to put on that website. You can't just build you a great looking website and you have these pictures that you scanned in from 10 years ago or that you shot with your home camcorder 10 years ago. So almost the #1 thing that we'll say to people is take care of the content first. Most oftentimes for our tourism clients, that's photography is really the #1 thing, but like you see a destination video like that is key. So whatever they have, we'll take and and make whatever we can out of it before we suggest to them getting new content if possible. But it's all about the website. Everything, all of the things that I had in my video, everything for those advertisers or someone who paid you to produce something, all now point to the website. You know, that's the final point of sale for everybody that's either selling a product or service or trying to generate more content. You know, ESPN sending you there to sign up for a contest or something so that they can sell more banner ads is essentially it. It's all website content you have to have. So.
And looking at the content, Steve, have you got feedback or contact or have discussions with franchises and leagues in the idea of, wait, we have all this stuff. We run media day. We run, they report to they have, reporters in every day. They have media day before a game. They have media day before playoffs. So now they're beginning to shoot all this stuff, and the teams I've seen the last 10 years, they now have big in-house operations. They don't freelance it anymore. They have, the Patriots have an entire studio in Foxborough Stadium. Are they beginning to sort of say, hey, we have this stuff, and our guys are making sort of the highlight for the Jumbotron, but you can do so much more with it? Are they engaging you to say, help us?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question because I would say, if anything, we are definitely emerging in a very emerging style of marketing and media. So in many cases, it's like it's kind of a show me thing. So our existing clients who we work with a lot are already thinking ahead of like, oh, this could totally be a mashup. We could totally take what we've already shot and put this in a remix mashup. And in other cases where they might need to see a demo because they may be shooting all this stuff, but they don't actually know. Some people have a tough time envisioning something that's so new, and so that's where demos come into big play for us. Like just a little proof in the pudding of showing, okay, this is what it could be, and I would say in like 95% of the cases where we present a demo, they're like, holy, they're like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, sure, let's do one. Where now we're working with people who are certainly keeping that in mind when they're shooting content. Whether it's we actually work with the Patriots as well, where they at least keep us in mind. Like this stuff would be great, so it's kind of it's an interesting question because like they're now starting to peel their minds open to keeping us in the conversation when it comes to the content.
Right, and has the sales process changed of they're contacting you, or are you still contacting them? I know probably, Allan and I probably are from that same world of, there are clients, repeat clients who will call you, but you're always out there prospecting, finding new leads.
Yeah, sales has been like kind of a crazy anomaly for us. It's been pretty much just rainfall at this point. We've actually generated a little bit of sales in the last year, but it's still so new that it's kind of one of those like brain fart things where, a client would be like, we gotta remix this, we gotta mash up, we gotta do one of those. But now it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. I think we've helped push it mainstream, and so it's just a little bit more on the top of everybody's conscious now. So it's changing a little bit right now.
Allan, how have you seen the sort of the sales process with digital video? Are existing advertising clients saying, please start including that in when you think about a strategy for us, or do you have to sort of force it on them and say, hey, you have all this great imagery that we made on a spot or photos for an ad slick, you can do this with it?
Yeah, I think it's we're a pretty small agency. We work with kind of smaller, medium-sized companies here in New England and some outside as well, but for those small companies, you're really pushing them to do something that's new, and from a production standpoint, I think as far as content providers, or if you're a production company, I think the key is, we talk about digital content, but the content side of that is key now. When we go back to that advertising, everybody is looking now, especially with digital, is how many clicks, how many people did it send to the website. So the content is just absolutely key for people to share. You want them sharing everything and posting it everywhere, because ultimately there's that marketing director or agency looking at how many views did we get on this, and that's how they're determining their return on investment. So back to a client side that comes to us and says, hey, we need a marketing plan and we need something new, what we're doing is not working. You have to look at that from us proving our worth, so to speak, saying, well, what's going to drive people to that website and hopefully make a sale. And whereas in the past it might have been a really nice, beautiful produced piece, now it relies a little bit more on the content side of it. You see the vines and stuff that are that are junk, but people are sharing them, and ultimately that's what people care about, is clicks to the website.
Right. And I'm not going to pin you guys down on real numbers, maybe talk about percentages. What I've seen in the growth of the business, so my shop, Moody Street TV, we've produced, small motion, indie motion pictures, commercials, package television, corporate communications, and we've seen that, produce an agency spot, it's 6 months of work, it's multiple, maybe 100,000 plus, 200,000 plus spot with a 4 or 6% margin that you have to sort of carry all the expenses, and then go to the client signs off on the spot and you get paid. And there's a small amount of margin. And now we're producing online short form video series that are, maybe half that in budget, but the margin's 35-40%, and we're producing 7 clips in a month, and that's including creative, shooting, post. And you say to yourself, why am I dealing with the mishigas of pitching a big ad agency to wait in line to see who can lend them money to make their production, when there's this short form world is it's a bucket of stuff. Can you guys sort of talk about the business model and like I said, share whatever you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple different business models. I think some people kind of approach us just to sort of work our magic, just put something out there and we'll see how it goes. That was sort of the initial business model, just like, hey, just do your thing and let's hope this goes viral. But then other things entered the fray, such as CPM. Like, we started to build in some contracts we had where if it reached a certain amount of hits, obviously the royalties or the fees would go up. So yeah, that we've seen that sort of get more structured and less shooting in the dark and more just kind of like setting a deal where if it did blow up, if it did go viral, we would actually stand to be paid fairly for it. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple different business models for online. And how we get paid. I'd be honest with you. Most of the time, we've mostly just been paid by a company just to kind of they'll just pay us a lump sum, and then we produce the content, and then they'll put a lot of marketing dollars behind it to assist its way to maybe being viral. And that's where it's changed a little bit in the last couple years. I would say YouTube. When I got involved with YouTube, it was a little bit more organic. It's still organic, but not as organic, and there's a lot more money in YouTube now, so you really actually have to put money in Google AdSense dollars into something just to at least get a little bit more visibility out of it, which kind of sucks, because you wish it was the free internet still, but at the same time, a few ad dollars here or there can actually get it in a little visibility, and it actually could scoot it to a point where people will start picking it up and sharing it, and then they'll post it to a celebrity, and the celebrity will post it, and it's viral too.
That's all you need, right?
Yeah, right.
Talk about any kind of business models, how you guys are making content.
Yeah, like I said, we're on the smaller end of the scale typically. We try and work with, we try and get our clients to work with larger companies. So we're always working on relationship marketing for us. The thing that we just did with Ford for one of our clients over here in New Hampshire, it's a rally school, which is why I had that footage there. We reached out to Ford. There was a big NASCAR race in New Hampshire a couple weeks ago, and eventually got a couple of the Ford drivers. Our client is a Ford rally racing team. We got a couple of the drivers to come up.
You could say Team O'Neill Rally,
rally school
in Dalton, New Hampshire. Check them out.
If anyone loves rally cars, they're it. They're multiple. They're pretty much known as the pinnacle of sport in New Hampshire for the two-wheel drive rally. But we got the Ford drivers, Greg Biffle and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., to come over and do some training that day, and again, shot one of these sort of behind-the-scenes things for Ford. So for us, being a small agency, we try and reach out to link ourselves with guys like Steve or larger brands, that have the money that that our clients couldn't afford to put in. But I think it's from a production standpoint, it's if you're purely a production company, a video production company, I think it's key to tie yourself to someone like Steve or someone else that's talented in some way. Because again, back to that, content is key. Obviously,
and
it's not just a nice visual.
That's our business model, is to tie ourselves with the networks who want this content and do stuff for them that they can't normally do. I don't want to monopolize the questions. I have more, but I want to see what you guys are thinking about. So if you have a question, stand up or raise your hand. Introduce yourself. You're first, sir.
My name's Phil. A question for you, Steve. With your mashups, I know, like you see Oprah Winfrey and celebrities and all this media from all these different ABC or God knows where.
Right.
And I imagine some of these mashups mix up media companies.
Yep.
What kind of rights issues are involved with this? And
Yeah.
I know they're short clips, but still, like, are they just glad to have it advertised?
Yeah.
Or is it ever like come back and fight and say, you can't use our clip from our show?
Yeah, the rights thing is an interesting thing. The first few videos I put up, I didn't ask anybody permission, so I just put them up there, and thankfully I've had no cease and desists, but that could easily happen. If you start to, if they weren't happy with what you did, if it was, if it was not the right look for them. I guess I always kept that in my mind when I was making sandbox type projects, something just, for my own personal, I kept that. The only one I ever got blocked for was actually, I did a video of Vladimir Putin for the Olympics, Sochi Olympics. It was like a satire thing, Sochi problems thing, and it got blocked it said blocked by Russian Federation. So that's the only time I ever got blocked. But
they'll come to your house, dude.
Yeah.
Go easy.
Yeah. But other than that, to answer your question, most of the, I'm totally in bed with most of the clients that we're working with. So with GMA, that was all licensed through GMA, all cleared. Sports is a lot different because you're dealing with NFL, NHL, baseball. Those people are lock and key with their content. So SportsCenter might have a license for only to air something for 30 days. Their highlight licenses are only for a couple weeks. So they can only air NFL highlight for 2 weeks, and then they cannot air it anymore without paying. So in a way, there's a lot of more red tape with the sports stuff because there's so many more entities and they're so protective of their content. In other cases, we're working with a show, they already own the content.
So say sports. Would you deliberately stay away from certain types of clips, or your legal approval must be intense?
Yeah, it is. They generally, like SportsCenter or ESPN will give me the 411 on what I can use and what I cannot use. But in many cases, like they'll make a mistake, and I've already produced the whole thing, and then they said I got to take out all of this athlete or all of this sport, and that happens. It does happen a lot. So yeah, I deal with that a lot with the sports stuff just because they're so lock and key. But other stuff, it's if you do a good job on something, if you shine a new light on something, put a remix or put a different angle on something, you're probably not going to get a cease and desist unless it's some sort of like SoundCloud algorithm where they've detected that you've used a sample from Britney Spears and like they want to rip it down or something, which is. Yeah. Yes, I produced all the music, so it's all original. That's actually part of the deal. So that's kind of a price point thing. So my experience as a music producer, I was able to sort of beat. We don't have to buy some kind of generic music. I can just kind of produce it. We meet with the client and basically decide what kind of vibe they want. They want hip hop. They want dance, whatever, country dance, whatever they want.
Other questions? Other folks? Yes, sir. So I should have handed that mic out at the beginning. My bad.
Hi, my name is Ben. My question is sort of for Allan. Just in your opinion, why do you think the higher end produced sort of like marketing ideas don't really fly as well as some of the lower quality end productions? And just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think it really, that the lower quality, called the lower quality end, like the Vines and things like that, really fly with really the younger generation. If you're looking at a destination marketing piece, say, you do want that higher higher quality piece that older people will look at and say it's really beautiful. I want to visit that area. But it goes back to that content, I think, and for kids, they're not going to sit through. They don't care how beautiful it looks, Like, and for a lot of the products, Coke, Doritos, products like that, that's their market. That's what they want to hit, And the people who are following them are not following products. I don't know how many people would buy a Coke after seeing a Vine, but they're following those kids because they do whatever they do. So I think it's the other side of that, and something that we use in the marketing world, which you can get away with the lower quality, is the realness of it. Testimonials for clients and video testimonials of someone saying, I'm up here at whatever, or I'm at this bar, or I'm here. That really has always resonated with people, but until now, you would just read it in a magazine by someone, if it was a celebrity that said, I love this place or something. There wasn't that visual side of it being shared, and obviously the internet now allows that you can find 500 videos from someone on a zip line, for instance, and that reaches people much more than a produced video will, because they believe it's real, and I think that's the major thing.
Yeah, user-generated content is amazing and immense. And I mean, I'll use those two words, amazing and immense. Amazing because anybody can make something really cool. And it's immense because there's so many people doing it and using it. And I think what is the appeal is that I can see something that looks like something I would make, and therefore there's a sort of an affinity to want to watch that. I have the world's best focus group. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she is great, and I'll show her stuff that is finely produced, that the client was all over with in the edit session, and I'll show her that. Like I did a 2-minute piece for a candidate running for governor that ran at the convention, and then we made sort of a off-the-cuff, bit of a mess production of a sort of a little political spot for him, which was really tongue-in-cheek, and she loved the second one and had wanted nothing to do with the first one. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I told that to the client, and they started floating out this little 30-second spot of, it was almost like we shot this video, and then at the end of the production, we said, you know what, let's try this. And we were doing testimonials with people in a bakery in Worcester. And we did this sort of mock, you're standing in line waiting for something at the bakery. And, we just sort of I said, have fun with it. And it's like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's stale, that's stale. You know what's not stale? This guy running for governor. And it was sort of funny and tongue-in-cheek. And that's what people were interested in. So I think what you're seeing is people creating content for people like them. And I think, that's what I try to do. And what Allan was referring to is, testimonial content that real people talking about real topics. It's important that when you're watching something, we're all enough savvy now. I turned 50 this year, and that means I've been watching MTV from before it was created. And you're savvy enough to know when you're being marketed to. So what you want to create is something that doesn't feel so forced. So,
well, and obviously on the entertainment side of things, reality TV, obviously over the last, which there wasn't really reality TV anymore, but I think that's why it's the same sort of thing. People are sick of, I don't say sick of produced things, but there was just this glut of content out there that was so different than everything that everyone had been essentially forced before, and I think people gravitate towards that.
Right. I think we have time for one or two more questions. I think our next panel's coming in. Is that you guys assembling in the back there? Yeah, they're all. Get out of the chair. No. Okay, we'll take one more.
Hi, my name's also Allan. I run a production company in Portland, Maine. I'm curious, sorry to leave you out of it, Steve, but you're just kind of an anomaly, apparently. For you two guys, you've been doing it obviously a while. I've been doing video 15 years, but I'm coming across dwindling budgets. And I would assume you guys are too, maybe you're not, but where do you, I guess my question is more of like, I'm dealing with challenges of shrinking budgets and as a result shrinking margins. What are you guys doing? What sort of like tactics are you using to control that decrease?
Do you want me to take that? Deal with it every day. Solidarity, brother. Repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. Convince your client that what you're sitting down for, hey, you know what, we're going to have the CEO. I know you're not going to do this stuff yet, but let's ask him a couple questions while we're sitting down and we can use that stuff in the can. Once you've shot your footage, go back, especially if it's interviews, do transcripts, even if you do paraphrase transcripts, and be able to call up your client and say, hey, here's all this stuff, and looking through your footage after we finished your project, I found some really cool stuff that we could use for something else that you're doing. And now, because you have it stored on a drive and it's digital, and they can't say, send me the box of tapes anymore, because they won't know what to do with a drive or have the facilities, you're now sort of their media manager. So you own everything, you keep an eye on everything. So when the CEO gets an award and you say, hey, we have some stuff we can cut together, and you can send that, or content you might want to utilize for a PR campaign, not just a traditional marketing campaign. So by owning, sort of quote, owning their material for them, managing their material, you're able to and look through it and know what's there and become familiar with it. You're now able to repurpose it. I mean, it's what you're doing as a business. You're repurposing sort of. I mean, GMA must love the crap out of you.
Yeah, I mean, I say we are sort of business of polishing turds. Sometimes, only sometimes. Sometimes the content's amazing, but sometimes you're repurposing the heck out of it.
You're making right.
Yeah.
So that's my strategy. I want to be respectful to our next folks. Let me just close with saying, be brave and inventive. Steve's business didn't exist 6 years ago, right? Allan's business is bringing, two different guys from two different worlds of advertising together, creating a business. I'm partners with three guys, and, in 2004, the business didn't exist. It was one guy in TV and one guy in PR and one guy in commercials. So be brave, be inventive. But keep in mind, whatever you're making, think about where the revenue is. Not just for you, but for your client. Because if you can show your client, by spending $1 on me, you're going to make $2, well, they're making $1 every day, and they're going to keep coming back to you. And that's my rule of thumb is I'd rather make $1 from 10 clients and have 10 clients than make $10 off of one person and never see them again. Or the other rule that we follow at our shop is when the client says, can you help you cut this budget? And I'll say, if it helps you stay in business, if you're in business, I'm here for you to hire. If you're out of business, I'm out of business. So, a parting comment, either of you? You're good?
No, I would echo exactly what you said. Is creativity is key. And giving people what they want. From a production standpoint. If they want that quick and dirty clip, you don't overproduce it and kill yourself in the margin.
I guess my parting comment would be just keep pushing stuff out. It's just it's a drip situation out there. You just keep dripping your content out there. Don't hold back. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of failure. Everything's not going to be a success, but you're going to have a better chance of success if you just keep dripping it out. So I would just say that.
Steve Porter, Allan Guilbeault, thank you very much. Everybody, thanks for coming out.